If you haven't noticed the giant blue whale floating over your gyms, that's right, Kyogre is back, Niantic's favorite rerun Pokemon. And of course, if you missed out on the shiny or the hundo before, well, now you have the opportunity to try at it again. So yeah, until June 27th, Kyogre is back. Then after June 27th, our favorite red Lego brick, or like yellow-green Lego brick, will be taken over. Groudon, Niantic's other favorite rerun Pokemon. And immediately preceding that, on June 29th, we will have Raikou coming in for a special shiny Raikou Raid Day. So yeah, if you want counter information on those guys, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips, and I will have videos up around those times. But today, Kyogre counters. So if you want the basic, here's a lovely infographic from Lorma96 of the Game Press crew, how to Kyogre. And yeah, basic flowchart here. If it's sunny outside and Kyogre is not packing Blizzard, well then it's time to bring on the grass types. But if it isn't sunny outside, or if Kyogre is packing the Blizzard, well then you might want to keep the grass types a little sheltered and zap it with the electric type Pokemon. As usual, as in the past, Zapdos does not appreciate the blizzards, so he's having a rough time. And then there's other counters as well. But if this isn't enough for you, you want the real details. How do I even trio it or duo it, Ryan Swag? Who's the best counters? Well, you know I got those graphs for you. So starting out, we got the Blizzard moveset for Kyogre. So this is a graph I made using Go Battle Sim, using level 40 counters, unless stated otherwise, against a Tier 5 Blizzard Kyogre Raid with no dodging and best friendship. And if you are looking at the points on here, the points that have an asterisk correlate with the Pokemon's bulk point, which is a combination of their defense and HP IVs. Link in the description to a bulk point calculator for more details. Basically, it helps you tank these hits and keep going and keep hitting, right? And then if they do not have an asterisk next to them, then that is a break point, which is based off of their attack IV. So it's the level at which your fast move does 1 extra damage to the raid boss, and as you can tell, that can be pretty significant for a lot of Pokemon. Additionally, on this graph, I have the trio line, which correlates to the damage per second, which is the y-axis. So how fast you need to deal damage in order to trio the raid boss. So this is just taking 50 and dividing it by 3. So of course, if you do have to re-lobby, you will have some DPS drag, which means each time you re-lobby, it's like an additional 1 to 2 DPS required for the trio to make the clear work. And then over here, we have the double re-lobby avoid TDO, in which I just took 100, divided it by 6, divided it by 3, and then divided it by 2 again. So 6, the amount of Pokemon, 2 because you have to re-lobby again, and then 3 correlating to 3 players. Clearly, if you're in the raid lobby with more than 3 players and they're all pretty decent, well then the double re-lobby avoid TDO is going to be much lower than this, so no concerns there. But if you are striving for the trio, this could give you a decent idea of how tanky your Pokemon need to be in order to survive. The TDO, total damage output, is how much damage your Pokemon deals before it faints, so it's like a more useful metric of tankiness, and then the damage per second is like damage speed. So overall, the more up and to the right your Pokemon are on this graph, well then the better performing they are overall. Getting into the counters, the best two overall are actually Raikou and Magnezone. When Electivire came out, we were all hyped for it because it technically has higher DPS than Raikou, but given the tankiness of Magnezone, it's able to meet those critical breakpoints needed to survive long enough in the fight to get off extra charge moves, making it generally more useful than Electivire. Of course, if you have maxed out some Electivires already, they're not useless. They're still very powerful high DPS options to clear the raid, but overall, I definitely like these two a little bit better. Sorry, Electivire, right? If you are curious about Electivire here having slightly higher DPS, this line is trending up to the 32.5. That's because given the circumstances of that bulk point, when Electivire is hit by Blizzard, it'll likely have enough time to survive to get off another wild charge, and then it will faint, so that on average has a slightly higher DPS spike. But going above level 32.5 to max isn't going to hurt your performance at all. The higher TDO, the higher tankiness will allow you to have a little bit more consistency in your raids. So just clarifying why that is the way it is. DPS is a function over time, and the points on the graph are just an average. So if you don't 100% understand it, I'm not going to get super into it right now. If you are curious about the Mewtwo here, this is using the Thunderbolt moveset. If you're using Shadow Ball, don't bring in the Mewtwo, right? And then here, the level 35 bulk point of Mewtwo crosses the level 29 breakpoint of Magnezone, so I just put zone 29 just so you know. And then all the way down here, you'll see that there's 20.5 zone. Yeah, Groudon and the giant grass cluster over here covers up that point, so I just want to let you know where it was generally going there. And then all these grass and there's like one ground and electric type in here. All these Pokemon are at level 40, just so you're aware. So this is just letting you know that like level like 28.5 iterations of Raikou or using like a level 20.5 iteration of Magnezone will serve you much better than going with your maxed out versions of these. The performance will be a lot better if you incorporate dodging, and the Deathloop glitch has allegedly been fixed, so that is in their favor. But I think overall sticking with the more consistent counters will probably work out better for you. Oh yeah, and then we got a cool addition over here, the Mythic Man, Melmetal. Yeah, super tank. I mean, Blizzard, it resists it. It got double electric attacks. The DPS is technically good enough for a trio, but I don't think it's necessarily reliable for a trio. But if you are like Bioweapon from the Game Press crew and you already maxed out a Melmetal for the Master League, well, you could whip this guy out here. And if you are using high enough DPS options, I think this guy could work out as a one-of in a trio. Then moving forward, we got the Hydro Pump graph here. So same circumstances as before, except with Hydro Pump instead of Blizzard, the trio and the double Relobby Avoid TDO. Same circumstances as before, so just so we're all on the same page here, I don't have to repeat myself too much. But yeah, surprise, surprise, water type damage, the grass types rise. All doing way better than before. One Pokemon I'm always impressed by, and I definitely feel everyone should have at least one like high-level version of these, is the Alolan Exeggutor. That Dragon Grass type synergy there with the resistances is always super nice in these raids, and definitely shows this stuff in this one. Being able to have enough TDO to just completely clear the double Relobby Avoid TDO, inching ever so closely to the single Relobby Avoid TDO. It's actually like 5.5 repeating, so you know, if you get that little, little dodge there, could work out for this boy. But yeah, Hydro Pump's kind of hard to dodge. At any rate, yeah, so being a super tank here and having decent enough damage, of course, if you are the more DPS-oriented type raider, you want to get all those extra damage balls and such, well then, you got your main man, Roserade here, having a nice synergy between tankiness, resistances, and DPS. And then, of course, you got the OG, the Raikou, bringing the storm. Yeah, Magnezone and Electivire are competing with it super hard, but at the end of the day, who's the boss? And if you don't have a good Raikou, you'll get one after Kyogre's gone on June 29th when he comes back for his raid day, and you can get the shiny one then too, so keep your eyes peeled for the Electric Mastermind. Gen 5 might creep on it, but for the time being, pretty hot. Over here, we got some pretty staple grass type Pokemon you may have. Frenzy Plant Venusaur, Frenzy Plant Sceptile, and Leafeon. And then going down to their level 30 breakpoints or their level 30.5 bulk point in the case of Sceptile. Pretty good. I had to make Victory Bell and Cantonian Exeggutor a little bit smaller because, well, they're kind of taking up space. But yeah, both good options. Breloom and Mewtwo are competing for relevancy here. They're both pretty good DPS options as well. And then, yeah, Magnezone, once again, stands a little bit higher above the Electivire, especially on this graph more so than just my eyes, because of its tankiness. So, go Magnezone. Sorry, Electivire could be a little bit more tanky, but yeah, no, Electivire is still a very solid DPS option. And much, much better if you're up against the Thunder moveset. Now, if you're wondering, Ryan Swag, why don't you have all this information for the Thunder moveset? Well, the Thunder moveset is much easier than the Hydro Pump one, and the counters are basically the same. So if you're prepared for Blizzard and you're prepared for Hydro Pump, well, then you're prepared for Thunder as well. Now, if you're sitting back at home thinking, Ryan Swag, you got the trio line, but what about that duo? Well, to duo, both you and your partner have to maintain 25 DPS each for a collective of 50 DPS. Surprisingly enough, 16.6 repeating times 3 is 50. Whoa. But yeah, without a weather boost, none of these Pokemon are making it. The only Pokemon that has a ghost of a chance of doing the duo is actually Raikou with a weather boost against the Blizzard moveset specifically, and if you have like 10 maxed out Raikous. So you don't have to revive when you relobby. You can just immediately relobby. With those factors combined. So you and your friend have like 10 and 11 maxed out Raikous, and so you can do the fast relobby without having to revive. You'll still only have a 10 to maybe 30% chance of duoing the Blizzard Kyogre. So I just want you guys to be fully aware of that it is a very slim chance. It comes down to how fast you can do it. And, you know, if the lobby lags at all, well, then that's going to mess it up. And if Kyogre Blizzard's too soon or too late, then that might mess it up. So I think it's a little bit too narrow to really put a lot of validity behind. If you are the kind of person who is into striving for those challenge rates, though, I think it's well worth the effort. Just expect a lot of disappointment, because it is like 10 to 30% chance, even with you doing everything you can to get it right. So now that we got how to counter Kyogre out of the way, just how good is it in the meta? Well, in raids and gym content, so PvE, if you will, player versus environment, Kyogre is still the top banana as far as water types are concerned. So here is the future Hydro Cannon Swampert and the future Hydro Cannon Empoleon and all sorts of other water types simulated on the GamePress DPS TDO spreadsheet. Link in the description, of course, if you want to check out your own simulations there. But yeah, Kyogre is still on top, Flipper in the air, masterminding all these water type Pokemon. However, I do want you to pay close attention to that Hydro Cannon Swampert. 15.6 DPS on average versus Kyogre's 15.91. This is just in a vacuum simulation kind of situation. In practice, because Hydro Cannon has more speed and a higher frequency than Hydro Pump does, that could allow Swampert to potentially beat out Kyogre in some specific raids. But overall, Kyogre is still the top boss as far as water types are concerned. Then as far as how Kyogre goes in PvP, this is just a simple graphic I whipped up for my Jirachi video. Actually, link in the description of that video if you haven't seen it. The Master League Simplified. So this is just a super simple look at the Master League. Master League's a little bit more complicated than this, but as you can tell, Kyogre operates in one of the 5 corners of the wheel. Of course, the Giratinas kind of operate outside of the wheel, but in the wheel, Kyogre is kind of a boss. And as far as Kyogre's use goes, it's kind of like that late game sweeper, heavy nuker type. Using the waterfall with the thunder, with the blizzard, it's got amazing coverage against many Pokemon throughout the Master League, making it a just super potent force. Even the Giratinas have to be wary of its blizzard, so watch out, right? So yeah, that's Kyogre. If you're looking to counter it, Magnezone, Raikou, the Alolan Exeggutor, Roserade, all very cool options. Electivire, also pretty hot, but you have to power it up quite a bit so it doesn't die right away. Or you can just incorporate some of that dodging. A lot easier than what we've had it before. And as far as how Kyogre goes in the meta, still the #1 water type Pokemon. Swampert with the Hydro Cannon coming in the near future. Community Day Pokemon. Does have the opportunity to power creep on it. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Maybe if you don't get the perfect Hundo Shiny Omega Kyogre, you might want to hold off on spending all that dust. But if you do spend all that dust, Kyogre is also an awesome Pokemon in the Master League as well, if you like to participate in that. If you enjoyed this content, you want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. We do have Groudon and Raikou coming up in the near future as raid bosses, so if you want these kind of details, I'm the detail supplier. And if you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up. I'll be happy to help you out. SwagTips. Then as far as how Kyogre... Wow, this is pissing me. My throat is just dying. Oh my god.